Hi, good day to you, my dear reading and writing skills students. Welcome to RWS Quarter 2, Lesson number 3. And as I promised, this is part number 2. Okay, let's begin by reviewing. Okay, what are the objectives of this lesson? Right? So the very first one is for you to explain the crucial considerations in academic and professional writing. Next is for you to identify the unique features of and requirements in composing text that are useful across disciplines. Produce academic writings following the properties of a well-written text and process approach to writing. These are the four samples or texts that we use across discipline. The very first one, we have the book review, article critic, project proposal rather, and we have lastly the position paper. Let's talk first about a book review. Book review is a form of literary criticism in which a book is described, analyzed based on the content, style, and merit. A book review may be a primary source, opinion piece, summary review, or scholarly review. Book review is a thorough description. Just I mentioned to you, it should describe the content of the book. It is a critical analysis and, of course, your evaluation of the book. Reviews generally range from 500 to 2,000 words, but of course, it may be longer or shorter, depends on the book that you are going to review. Students, you are assigned to do book review as practice in carefully analyzing complex scholarly texts, and of course to assess your ability, okay, to effectively synthesize research so that you reach an informed perspective about a certain topic. Of course, we cannot just simply give opinion. We have to share informed opinion, meaning we know what we are talking about. Okay? Book review should offer concise plot summary of the book. Book review will offer an evaluation of the work, and lastly, it should have a recommendation for the audience. Is this book worth reading for? Okay, of your readers of the book review. Okay, here's how you're going to write a book review. Ridiculously, you cannot write a book without picking or choosing a book first. Okay, so that's how we start our book review. Next, you go with your planning. You outline what are the things that you're going to include. Next, you need to write now for your IBC or your introduction, body, and your conclusion. Now, let's talk about the things, ideas, thoughts that you need to include in your introduction. First, introduce the topic of the topic. What are or what is the issue at hand, and why should we care on this topic of this book? Is this timely? Is this something relevant or people can relate to? Next, introduce the title and the author of the book. Title, author, brief background, okay, of the author, what he or she is known for. Next, state the purpose of the book, and of course, state your thesis statement. Your thesis statement is, of course, the statement of your main idea of your writing assignments. These are some of the example of thesis statement. Now, I'll be showing you how to write a thesis statement. This one, it's very weak. The Adventure of Tom Sawyer was written by Mark Twain in 1876. Why is it a weak, okay, thesis statement? Because this is a common knowledge. Okay, when you go to Google, you will see that Mark Twain is really the author of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Next, we have here, some people think that The Adventures of Tom Sawyer is Mark Twain's best novel. We describe the book best novel of the author himself. Now, what makes it different with this one? This one is stronger. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer is Mark Twain's best novel. Okay? Because the other one uses some people think. Okay, meaning you're not sure. Okay, how come it will be the best novel if only some people think about it? So you need to be direct when you are writing. And this one, it's stronger because it provides explanation as to why The Adventures of Tom Sawyer is Mark Twain's best novel. Because of the use of what? Satire, imagery, and symbolism. Now, for the body, you need to use about 3 quotations from the author's novel. Summarize the quotations in your own word. How do you do that, and why is it a requirement to use 3 or like 5 quotations from the book itself, because book review is a preview. You're going to give a glimpse of what do they see or can expect about this certain book. Next, you have to mention your, of course, share your own point of view of the quotation. Summarize the major points of the author's argument. Identify key strengths and weaknesses, because that is what book review is for. Again, this is a form of literary criticism. We cannot just simply talk about the good things. We have to see also, okay, the negative things or the weaknesses of that book. Support your claims with evidence from the text. Lastly, for conclusion, briefly, keep it short and simple. Summarize the quotations and the explanation. What are the things that you have learned from the book? Overall assessment of the book's important. Who are the people that can benefit from reading this book? And how can future researchers can build on this book? What are the gaps that they can breach on? Next, does the book make space for new kinds of research within its field? Next, we have article critic. This one is also under the same umbrella as book review, because it is, okay, a genre of literary criticism also. Now we have a question. Where can we find reading articles? You can comment down your answers. But I'll repeat it now to you. We have library, we have newspapers, magazines, scholarly journals, and of course, our online resources. And this is how it looks like. Right? Now, article critic, of course, it's a writing assignment that requires you, student, to critically read a research article and reflect upon it. Your key task, as this is a form of literary criticism again, is of course to identify the strong and weak side of the piece and assess how well the author of this article interprets its sources. Of course, you cannot write without sources. Same with the writers of the article. Next, what are the credentials of the authors? Is he or she qualified to write about this certain topic? Are the chosen research methods appropriate to answer the research question? These are some of your checklists. Is the evidence of bias of conflict of interest? Is the article timely and still relevant, or is it kind of outdated? Lastly, did the authors ground their research in theory and previous literature? You have to remind yourself that there are studies that started out, okay, from a theory or a previous literature or study also. So these are the things that you need to include in what? Your introduction, author's name and the title of the article, the author's main point, thesis statement that previews your analysis. For your summary, of course, when we say summary, you use your own words. Main points of the articles, the arguments presented in the article, and lastly, the findings of the article. And the critique, of course, this is the most important part, as we call it article critic. Here, you need to provide, discuss, and talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the article that you noted. And next, state your informed opinions about the clarity, relevancy, and accuracy of the article. Next, lastly, is we have conclusion. Summarize the key points in the article as well as the key points from your own analysis. Close it with a comment about the importance or significance of a research or a statement for future research needed in that field. Okay, and we have some tips here for you that you need to remind yourself. Although called a critique, not an article critic, does not only give critical, okay, and negative feedback on an article. A good critic should include both positive praises and negative criticism for your particular work, and use direct quotations of the author's work where it is appropriate, okay, for you to avoid accusations and commitment, okay, to plagiarism. And lastly, write your critique in the third person. Now, let's proceed with project proposals. Project proposal, I mean. So, of course, these are documents, okay, just like book review and article critic. It's just that project proposal is a lot different on its form. Okay? A proposal contains a proposed solution to an identified problem. So your first task for you to create project proposal is to find first if there is an existing problem. And in your project proposal, you will be delivering the solution for that. Now, a project proposal uses the format of introduction, body, and conclusion, but it's not something that being followed, okay, nowadays, okay, because we make we make project proposal in the use of creativity. So it's not always the paragraph that is present, okay, when we are writing across discipline. We have here, no, for introduction, you can include background of the project, the rationale, or the problem that needs to be addressed, and why is there a need to provide certain solution to it. Next, we have your objectives. You can write it down in bullet form or list form. What are the projects intend to achieve? Next, benefits, what the readers can get from your project proposal. And then your body and your conclusion will focus on the triple constraint. We have here the scope, time, and cost. Now, let's talk about the scope. This one highlights how you will contain your project to ensure that it focus only, okay, on what is achievable. You should also explain what is out or excluded in your scope. Okay, for example, excluding other stands. Okay, if your topic is only for STEM students or maybe you're from UMS, then if you say that it includes other strands, then that's part of your scope because you have one focus only. Now, let's talk about time. This one is the duration, okay, of the total time that it takes for you to complete your project in measured work days, hours, or weeks. The duration, of course, depends on the availability of the people who's going to work, okay, for the project, and of course the capacity of your resources and your materials. Lastly, we have the cost, and cost is the amount of money that has to be paid or spent to buy or obtain things that needed in your project proposal looks like this, okay, and down, okay, to the paragraph or the final paragraph or conclusion, you will summarize the project, including the problem, your motivation, and of course the proposed solution. You have to reiterate that. Then you will include a call to action. Okay, wherein you will say that the company, okay, a certain organization should provide and give fundings, okay, to your project. Now, we're done to the last, okay, type of academic writing, and that is a position paper. Okay? Position paper is a type of academic writing where you research on a controversial issue and write a paper that explains your viewpoint on it. The purpose of writing a position paper is, of course, to convince the audience that your opinion is valid and worth listening or reading to. Hey, ensure that you are addressing all sides of the issue and presenting it in a manner that is easy for your audience to understand. Support your argument with evidences to ensure the validity of your claims, as well as to address the counterclaims to show that you are well informed about both sides. Right? And remember, take note of this, you have two kinds of readers: those whom you share the same values and thoughts with, and those who have opposite beliefs. Okay? And remind yourself that though you have opposing views, you still respect their views, but still hopes, no, at the end that they will take your side. Right? Consider your audience when you are writing. First, who is intended audience of your paper? Professor, classmate, person, group, or any organization out in the community. Next, what does my audience value and believe? Keep these things in mind when you are writing the paper. Your argument is going to be more convincing if you show that you have taken the situation of your audience into an account, meaning you understand where they are coming from. Next, what side of argument do they favor? Are you trying to convince someone who probably already agrees with you, or is your reader, okay, someone you need to convince more? to think otherwise and to take your side. Next, how will their interest be affected by the issue? In other words, why should your audience care about the issue? This question can also be broader. Why should anyone care about this certain issue? And lastly, what kind of evidence will be most effective with your readers? Because you are writing an academic paper, evidence is very important. So you have to think which type of evidence that your readers will believe to. Okay, we have four types of evidences that you can use. The first one we have is statistic. Of course, this one focuses on a number, but you have to make sure that if it comes from a survey, then it's a credible, okay, source of survey and information with good interpretation. And we have a sample. The Trident chewing gum commercial says 4 out of 5 dentists recommend chewing sugarless gum. Next, we have factual data. This data should be widely agreed on by most people or supported by other reliable information. If you say there are 50 states in the United States, you have to make sure that there are really 50 states in the United States. Next, we have here reputable opinions and claims. Make sure the individuals have the credentials to be making these claims and are people who are respected in their field. We have samples like direct interviews with experts in your topic, quotes from an expert's book, paper, newspaper, editorial, conclusions from essays written by experts only. Lastly, we have relevant personal testimony. What are these? The testimony might be from individual directly involved in the issue that you are investigating. They may be able to provide first-hand experience that will help validate your argument. Okay, so we have an example. Interviews with someone who tells a story related to your thesis or your study. A personal experience related to the topic. Okay, so those are the things that you need to consider when you are writing a position paper. If ever you have question, you can comment down below. Again, thank you so much and God bless you all, my dear reading and writing skills students. Thank you so much.